I told myself I wasn't gonna launch this car, and here I am. Oh my God. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the new AMG GT55. And you've seen the best and the rest, and thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee, we're gonna show you every little thing that makes this car cool. Let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about, and it's relevant to be here in Wisconsin as we test this car, is the fact that this is now a year-round car. Because you can now get, well, I shouldn't say you can, you will now get 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive as standard. It's a completely variable all-wheel drive system. It's just rear-wheel drive most of the time, but it will kick front-wheel drive on when you need more grip. And of course, you can take manual control and you can adjust your torque distribution on your own if you want to. You can send all the power to just the back wheels for some classic AMG antics as well. And that is pretty cool in the Halo GT. And then stepping under the hood, now AMG motors have more recently been a point of controversy, but here there is no controversy at all. You have the good old 4-liter twin turbocharged hot V V8. Now, this is the 55 version, which gets 469 horsepower and 517 pound-feet of torque. If you want to wait and go up to the Halo 63 trim, you'll get 577 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. And in that 63, the 0 to 60 is claimed from Mercedes to be about 3.1 seconds, but some outlets have been seeing sub 3 seconds in real-world testing from this V8, the 9-speed wet clutch, and all-wheel drive. And that is pretty fast, but most importantly, and I think the thing that most people like about AMGs is they're hand-built and signed, so you know that they're special. So special shout out to Selena Shai, because this has been a fabulous engine. And I just referenced it, but it's worth mentioning again. That power from the V8 then goes through the 9-speed AMG wet clutch, multi-clutch transmission. It is absolutely lightning, huge amounts of snap, loads of theater, and just tons and tons of emotion. And it sounds incredible as it does pretty much everything. And I just love that about it. Sound and snap, you guys know that's what I'm about, and you get it here. And of course that power goes from the transmission to all 4 wheels. But what keeps the car on the ground and what keeps it balanced? And that is a new active anti-roll system. It doesn't use roll bars, it uses hydraulic fluid at each corner to build pressure and keep things balanced. They say that it reacts faster and has more finesse for comfort and control than an antiquated anti-roll system. You've also got a rear steer module here and an eLSD in the rear. We'll talk more about it behind the wheel, but that rear steer system is active, to say the least. And just generally, I want to touch on size here. Now this thing, as with pretty much every modern car in the last decade or two, it gets bigger, or even, I guess, since kind of the beginning of time, they all get bigger, and this one has too. The wheelbase is 3 inches longer, the overall length is 6 inches longer than the previous gen, and it's almost 2 inches wider. And of course, that means your curb weight is up to about 4,300 pounds. But this is also more practical from a day-to-day perspective. Now this one has a rear seat delete because the reality is, while this does now come as a 2+2 option, you're not really gonna fit anyone back there. Very much in the same way that you're not fitting anyone in the back of a 911 from Porsche. But I guess you could get some seat belts and seats back here if you want, but to be honest, this is probably the best way to do it because now it functions more as a parcel shelf to store more stuff. And the 2+2 thing, yeah, that's nice, but this is the part that makes it so much more practical. You have a hatch and it opens up like that. And here you have a super large trunk and cargo area. Of course, obviously you saw its kick gesture, and with the rear seats up, or rear seats, you're looking at about 11.3 cubic feet of space, or at least you would be able to fold the rear seats down if there were rear seats there. But with that folded down and the pass-through open up to the cabin, you're looking at 23.8, almost 24 cubic feet of space. The 911 could never. Now, this is genuinely practical, and it even goes a bit further, and by a bit, I mean barely, but still, this is a huge, very practical place to put stuff. You can carry a lot of stuff with you in your borderline supercar now. And let's just take a minute to appreciate the styling here, because I think it looks fan-freaking-tastic. And this is exactly the spec that I would have mine. I would have mine in the Silver Arrow Silver, which is not, of course, what it's called, but that's what I think it should be called. And then with the black wheels and the yellow calipers. I mean, this is the historic spec. This is the historically respectful spec. But anyway, up front, you have a very aggressive face. You've got your triple pod running lights, which you're starting to see in more AMG cars these days. You've got an exaggerated grille that kind of bleeds into your lower front bumper. And you see this little black front splitter here? Well, this has active aero going on underneath it, which is very, very cool. And then we see we have our classic Power Dome AMG hood, Americana grille, AMG, classic stuff that you would expect to see. And as we come around the side, let's just take a look at this 3/4, because it looks fantastic. Just absolute presence here as it sits. And then long hood, classic GT, classic roadster shape to it. We've got the black finished 21-inch wheels. Now the 20s are going to be standard, the 21s are going to be optional. You can also get carbon ceramic brakes with gold calipers. Here we've got the yellow calipers, and they look fantastic. One thing I'll note too is I didn't hear anything about this, but this is Michelin Pilot Sport S5. I don't know anything about this tire. Is this a new generation of Pilot Sport? Leave it down in the comments if you know. But these cars will also get a front nose lift, which you can either enter points manually and it'll remember, or you can use GPS to keep track of stuff. Very, very cool. And of course, front grille, it's not functional, but it does look cool. And then V8 bi-turbo, 4MATIC Plus. Love to see it. And then black accents for your wing mirror, window treatments, and your rocker panel. Flared hips. Let's just take a look at the profile. And to make it look the best, you have to get real low. I mean, look how long that hood is. This is such a good looking car. And while this thing rides on the same chassis as the SL, these doors here are the only shared part between those two cars. Fun fact. Let's take a minute to appreciate the shadowing on this rear hip because it is so aggressive. And then you see we have an active spoiler. It's got about 5 different levels that it'll subscribe to. Of course, this is the GT55. There is going to be a 63. I believe there might even be a 43 with the 4 cylinders. But V8, this is a very, very fun and emotional car. Of course, kind of like a dark chrome finish. But again, triple pod taillights to match the front. We've got AMG here. And then like the GLC Coupe we tested, there's a bar that kind of connects the two. And then, of course, aggressive rear diffuser with the quad rhombus tips. Sounding incredible. Now moving on to the interior, there's a couple things that you can get that we don't have here. You can get a rear seat. This has a rear seat delete, and to be honest, that's probably okay because you're really not having much of any space back here. It's very much like a 911. The rear seats make it a 2+2, but it's not exactly an inhabitable 2+2. You also can option a sunroof, which of course will add a little bit of weight, but they've thought of that because the shade for the sunroof is going to be manual because of weight savings. Good job, AMG. But then for your interior design as a whole, this will look very familiar. We've done 2 SL videos, and the interior here is basically identical. Now the windshield is more tapered, it's more of a slanted angle than you get in the SL, but the rest of it is pretty much the same. The design, the leathers, really high quality. I love the perforation, the stitching, the contrast. You've also got this metallic aluminum AMG, and then really nice. Look at the detail in the tree, in the embossments that you get on the headrest. I mean, that is proper cool. Plus, of course, you get your little pressure sensitive adjustments, heated and cooled seats, 3-level memory even for the passenger, which is pretty cool in your borderline supercar. But some of my favorite things on the interior have to be the air vents here. Like, these genuinely look like if you were staring down the barrel of like an airliner's jet engine, this is what you'd be staring into. And then of course I always appreciate a Burmester speaker cover because they are just fabulous to look at. And then in the cabin we'll talk about some of the technology features because you get pretty much everything you could want. You've got a robust head-up display that shows you a load of stuff, your driver assist suite, the whole thing. You've got the completely digital instrument cluster. Again, a lot of this is going to be repeat from the SL, so I'm not going to go into detail about everything, but loads of customizability in here. The graphics are great, the refresh rate is great, just loads of customizability. And then here, you do have your vertically oriented tablet style screen. The screen doesn't, I haven't found a way to make it tilt like in the SL, but you wouldn't need it to because this obviously has a roof. So the tilt thing is really just to keep glare off the screen, but very nice screen. The MBUX system here works really, really well. I haven't had an issue with it. It's very snappy, very quick. The graphics look great. You do have your climate zones, climate controls always on screen here. So it's, I guess, the next best thing to having physical buttons, but it works really, really well. Throw it into reverse. Typical stuff we've seen from Mercedes. Probably the best reversing and 360 camera in the game. BMW is a close second, but this, I think, just edges it a little bit. But stuff like wireless CarPlay, 360 camera, as you saw, you've got your fingerprint reader for your driver profiles. I do like that. It's kind of cool, makes it feel like a little James Bond. You got a little fingerprint reader in your car. Of course, we've got our AMG performance pages, so we can track stuff like our suspension, our G meter, steering angle. We've got active telemetry and readouts and stuff. We've got our IWC Schaffhausen, ooh, with a new graphic. Look at that. Almost as good. Leave it in the comments. Do you think every luxury car should have an actual analog clock, or is this okay? And of course, don't ever look at this page because you get very sad. But we'll go back into home, and you also have track pace. Because you can, and probably should, take this thing on the track. And you can time your laps and all sorts of stuff in here. You can time your drag racing, and of course, active telemetry as well. I mean, everything that you could possibly want in here, you got. And I just want to have a point to just appreciate the AMG steering wheel. A lot of companies make cool sports steering wheels now, but none of them make steering wheels quite as cool as AMG. They've somehow found the perfect balance of like luxury and prestige, but also really nice sporty. I mean, it's thick, it's got the perforations here on where you're gonna grab it. You've got the little drive mode selector here on the wheel. And then of course you've got your customizable buttons for exhaust, wing, you know, all sorts of stuff. Traction you can put in here. It just feels special. It feels like an occasion when you sit in here and pilot this thing. Very cool, and it starts with the steering wheel. And more specifically on your steering wheel, you do get your Distronic suite here. So you got adaptive cruise, link, the whole thing. I mean, this is really nice modern commuter car stuff in a borderline supercar, and you just love to see it. And then of course, lastly, we'll talk about price. And at the time I did my research for this car, it wasn't even available on the Mercedes-Benz website yet. So this thing is still very new, but price-wise, it's pretty similar to the SL. Starts at about $136,000. And that's a lot of money, but this is a lot of car. Now, I'm gonna stop gushing about the details now. We're gonna get behind the wheel, go for a drive so I can gush about the driving experience. Let's do it. Try a motion start. Startup is a little muted. Okay, so we're gonna go into Sport Plus because it turns on loud mode. Okay, we've talked about power and stuff like that. I'm just gonna let the car speak for itself. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've never heard more pronounced pops on the overrun. Unfreaking believable. This is what I love about AMG. I will make so many excuses for these cars, and this one's very complete. It doesn't need a lot of excuses, but oh my God, the emotion and the drama and the theater when you drive it. And again, if you guys follow the channel, you'll know that I'm about two things, and I say it in like every performance video. I'm about Jesus Christ. I'm like overwhelmed with emotion now. I'm about sound and snap, and this thing gives it to you in spades. We're gonna hit it again. One thing I'll note here in this right-hander is this has a new active anti-roll system. It's hydraulics, we kind of talked about it. It stays flat as a pancake, but I don't want to be in fourth. Here we go. God. Unbelievable. Okay, so this is the GT55, so this is the less powerful one. Whew, I think I need a cigarette. But oh my God, this thing still does 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, and it sounds like that, and the 9-speed does that, and it's so flat through a corner, super agile on tip-in from the rear steer and the new hydraulic anti-rolls. It's freaking good. All-wheel drive, ELSD at the back. I mean, this is... I don't care that the Porsche is faster. I don't care that the Porsche goes around a circuit quicker. I don't care that the Porsche is 700 pounds lighter than this, because the Porsche doesn't sound like this. It does not give you that. And that is what I'm about. Know thyself when picking cars. and I know myself, and I really love AMGs, and I really love this GT55. And I think before I go to jail, that's probably a good time to wrap it up. Okay. One thing we are gonna do is U-turn. Hugely long car. U-turn's fine. But yes, thank you to Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee for letting me have a go in this thing. Absolutely incredible experience. Wow, what a car. But if you want to know a little bit more detail on how this does stack up to a Porsche 911, make sure you check out our Best in the Rest video. It's on the channel now. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. You know what? I'm not gonna do you like that. I'm not just gonna sign off. Let's do one more. I told myself I wasn't gonna launch this car, and here I am. Oh my God. It does legitimately sound like gunshots. I could scare this man off his tractor if I wanted to, but that wouldn't be cool. It's when the turbo spools. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm done.